Thank you. We have about 1,000 pronunciations of our name. Acorai is one of them. Acorai, the French go for Acorai, so whatever floats your boat. My name is Filip. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Acorai. We are developing a non-invasive intracardiac pressure monitoring device to help improve heart failure management. The problem probably needs no introduction to this crowd. Heart failure is a global problem affecting over 60 million patients worldwide, and the US alone costs the healthcare system over $100 billion annually. Over 80% of these patients are diagnosed too late. Over 45% of these patients remain unstable despite optimal treatment, and there is one of the largest and highest readmission rates out of all patient groups. Intracardiac pressure monitoring, or what's known as measuring the blood pressure inside the heart, is the single most important way to manage these patients, but are only available in invasive or implantable formats today. The role of intracardiac pressures is important in heart failure because it is one of the earliest indications of deterioration in cardiac health. If we can intervene early, we can prevent a lot of these hospitalizations, and we can know the true conditions of these patients' cardiac condition and heart failure. That means we can much more accurately manage these patients and help improve outcomes, ranging from reducing complications to reducing length of stay, as well as ensuring that these patients don't get readmitted to the hospital. The solution is the Acorai Heart Monitor, which is a handheld, scalable, and non-invasive intracardiac pressure monitoring device. We recently received an FDA Breakthrough Device designation for this device. At the end of the day, what we're offering to the in-hospital workflow is a device that can help reduce treatment complications. We can reduce length of stay by improving the response to treatment by these patients, and the crucial reduction in readmission rates by making sure that we only discharge stable patients. It is a universal patient management solution which can be applied across the heart failure workflow from start of diagnosis to ongoing management in the community setting. The technology is based on what we call the SAVE sensor system. We've borrowed heavily from non-healthcare industries such as the oil and gas industry and engine diagnostics to build a system that's focused on collecting highly sensitive seismic, acoustic, visual, and ECG data. We analyze that raw data using our machine learning models, which have been developed over the past few years, using our proprietary data sets that have been developed through our clinical studies here in Europe, as well as our partnerships with Mayo Clinic and Cedars-Sinai to augment those data sets. What we offer is direct estimates of the intracardiac pressures, with the primary indication being that of pulmonary artery diastolic pressure, and our secondary endpoints in our study looking at the other intracardiac hemodynamic parameters, such as capillary wedge pressure, right atrial pressure, and cardiac output. As mentioned, we have done a fair amount of clinical validation already. We have run a large pilot study here in Europe, enrolling over 400 patients, where we have compared our device against the clinical gold standard, so a Swan-Ganz catheterization, right heart cath. What we've been able to demonstrate is that we are able to uphold similar levels of accuracy as existing implantable devices on the market. There's really only one, CardioMEMS, which is now owned by Abbott. But every cardiologist we've spoken to worldwide have said that if we can keep this up in a global population, then this is considered very clinically meaningful and will help me manage my patients better. As mentioned, we recently received our FDA Breakthrough Device designation based off of this data and have now just commenced our 1,200-patient global clinical study, which will give us the data needed for approval not only in the US, but also in Europe. To the important part of how we're going to get paid, right? We've stress tested this many times. Just had a conversation with one of you about exactly this. There is a high willingness and ability to pay for this device within the operational expense budgets of most clinics around the world, particularly so in the US. We are pricing the device at around $7,500 per device per year. That works out at a pretty decent $600 per month. The vast majority of physicians that we have interviewed and the CMOs that we have talked to have said that proving accuracy equivalence versus the right heart cath gold standard is enough to drive a buying decision, and that is what we're going after in our upcoming clinical study. The market size tends to be very big when you're talking about 60 million patients globally. The vast majority of those patients are actually here in Europe, but of course the US represents a large problem as well. For the inpatient use case alone, which is our primary use case in our first beachhead market, We estimate that the annual SAM is around $750 million, I should say. The subscription price per device I've talked about already is around $7,500 per device per year. So it fits really nicely into that operational expense budget of most clinics, and some pretty impressive gross margins all around. So what makes us unique here, right? We are the only device that's able to non-invasively and directly estimate the intracardiac pressures. About a year ago, many of the heart failure KOLs around the world came together to define what a good heart failure management tool would look like. Bill Abraham coined the term of adhering to the 5 A's, and we have done exactly that, making sure that our device is actionable, absolute, and accurate. And we are so far the only device that's able to demonstrate that, and demonstrate that in pretty substantial clinical studies. We have to date raised $4 million US. We've secured a number of grants courtesy of the EU grant system, and that has allowed us to develop this device from scratch, file 3 granted patents, another 4 patent families pending, and get us to the design-free stage. We have recently kicked off our global clinical study with some of the world's leading cardiology hospitals, including 5 sites in the US, 2 sites in Canada, and another 5 sites here in Europe. We expect to be finished with that study towards the middle of next year. We've already had close to 100 patients enrolled, and things are, for once, knock on wood, running remarkably smooth there, which means that we will be on the market in the US by early 2025 and shortly thereafter in Europe. We are originally a tech-founded team, and what I mean by that is that we have the technical skills in-house to take this product all the way to market, and we've taken it thus far. We are not a medically background team, which has been a double-edged sword in the terms that we've made a hell of a lot of mistakes, but we've also come at this problem with a different approach from anyone else, right? We have relied more on other industries in terms of inspiration for the tech, which puts our IP and what we're able to accomplish at a much higher level than everyone else. Crucially, we have attracted a fantastic management team that have done this journey before from a commercialization perspective, as well as a regulatory and clinical perspective, from bringing a Class 2 device to the market. With that, we also have a fantastic advisory board, ranging from some of the world's leading heart failure and pulmonary hypertension physicians. We have some of the world's leading executives. Some of you are in this room. And some great investors all around who have the right skills to help us navigate not only the product development part of this business, but also the commercialization aspects of this business. We are currently raising a $4 million round, and that is to complete our ongoing 1,200 patient clinical study, as well as get us to regulatory submissions in Europe and in the US. Off the back of that data, we will be raising a larger $50 million round towards the end of next year, which will get us through commercialization for the first 12 to 18 months in the US and in Europe. As mentioned, we have our final hardware manufacturing ready, so we are effectively ready to scale that manufacturing up once the opportunity presents itself. We have secured a lead investor for this round, who are picking up between 1.5 and 2 million of this round, and we're currently looking for co-investors. So if anyone in this room is interested in participating, feel free to reach out to me after this presentation, and we can have a conversation. And if you have any comments or any questions, please reach out to me here at philip.peters@acorai.com, and I would just like to thank you for your attention.